way, way, way up for the sampler and then coming back down to sample rate convert it down, which would mean in the sampling synthesizer, all the real low frequency things just had incredible integrity, where other synthesizers were just changing the sample rate and using crappy sample rate conversion just in the low area. Anyway, I'm going off track here.
No, it's okay. You're allowed.
So several careers later, I get a call from David Kawakami saying, Sony's launching a new format and it's DSD. Come to New York. I want to show you what it is. So I met him. I met him in New York at Sony headquarters, and he played some stuff they had done with Wynton Marsalis, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is like going back to tape. And so he hired me and let me live in Boulder, and I'd go around and help people make masters for SACD, but we were really missing the tools. In 99 and 2000, the only thing we had Mute.
Okay, sorry guys.
Sorry, I didn't mute.
No, it was me. I got everybody else unmuted, and since it's only going to be us, right? I'll unmute those guys when we do the Q&A. But yeah, I'll let you continue because I had to hit the record button.
Got it. Okay, so anyway, so in the very early days, we just had this 2-track DSD recorder. It had Sony converters, but Ed Meitner made a converter that blew those away. So we decided not to use the Sony converters, and we ended up using Ed's early converters. In fact, the one I showed you a moment ago, that was one of the first ones, and is to this day still my favorite. It even beats the higher sample rates. Anyway, but we had no way to edit the music. They had made an arrangement with Sonic Solutions. Sonic was supposed to provide editing systems, but they had no plans for multi-track. Sadie made a mastering station, but again, cumbersome to use and just an 8-track. And, in order to be able to make records, and keep them in the DSD domain and do what the SACD was capable of, in other words, staying in the analog domain, because the moment you go through digital, you've lost the whole effect of the analog field to the DSD. There's no point in going to digital if you're working with DSD. May as well just stay in digital. So there were no tools, and I just kept pushing Sony. We got to do this. We got to make the tools we need. So that was my project with Andreas Koch, and we put together a team and we made what we needed, which was a basic workstation to record, edit, mix. The Sony group in Oxford made the mixing system, which it's new technology. There were no DSPs. They had to use FPGAs and write their own DSP architecture in it that actually processed DSD. And, and all of that's done at the high rate of 2.8 megahertz. And so, we just had to come up with these tools. Otherwise, what you get on the SACD wouldn't really show it off. Going through anything digital, which was the way everybody was working back then, it would just limit what the SACD could be.
Cool. Very cool. All right, my next question, and this is actually going to give you a chance to re-show us the tour of the studio because your stupid host forgot to hit the record button. Yeah, again, so this is more of a personal Joe Goswami thing, but I think that for the club, it's going to be kind of cool. Okay. Having toured your studios at PS Audio last summer, the collection of all your keyboards is impressive, especially the modular Moog. I agree and regret trying your Behringer rig, which we talked about earlier. Next time I'm up, of course, for sure.
I
What's your
took that home.
Oh, you did take it home?
I have all that stuff at home, so I just have the Moog here now.
Oh, okay, that's all right. That's all right. The Moog looks cool. At least, you know, you can show the club.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know you already touched on this a bit, but since I got the recorder on now, what's your favorite piece of recording gear or keyboard gear that you've accumulated over the years? And I know we just saw Smiley. You know, nobody's allowed to leave your studio without taking a picture of Smiley, so that's cool. Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite recorder, this Smiley, the
Nice.
G36, Reebok's G36, I think. Is that what it is? I think it's a G36.
I'll take your word for it.
But actually, this is the one I use most of the time when doing real work for SACD. This is, let's see, this is a Studer A80, specifically made for cutting vinyl, which I don't do here. Maybe someday we will. But the nice thing about it is that the playback's transformerless. It doesn't really record. It's mainly for playing back tapes and creating masters from tape. So that's what's done a lot of the DSD transfers here. DSD. And let's see. Well, I showed you this, but let me show you again. This is the Sonoma multi-track, and this can be up to a 32-track recorder. And this one actually does do 32 tracks. Oh, hold on, sorry.
No, it's all right. That's all right. Believe me.
If you see the meters here, those are just 2 tracks. It's just playing these 2 tracks right now, and there are 30 more that that go down.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is just running a master. This is the next PS Audio release. This is name of the band is Clandestine Amigo.
Nice.
Wonderful singer-songwriters. And I'll take you into the recording area, the control room. So to stay with that analog feel,
yeah,
you're either gonna mix in the DSD mode or you're going to stay analog. So a lot of what we do, we're staying in the analog domain. So this is a Studer 963 from the 70s, and some analog EQ that we use for mastering. And that Meitner I was telling you about before, these Meitners we used on those very first 2-track recorders for Sony. So these specific Meitners probably recorded the Yo-Yo Ma Appalachian Journey and Appalachian Waltz. And then there's a little SSL we use for on the road live to 2 recordings. And then here, I actually use it as the front end of the Studer console. So it takes the place of a lot of the master functions for the Studer, and it sounds great. So, and then I would run the Sonoma on this monitor over here when I'm in this room. And that's the sunset. ATC monitors in here, the ATC 50s. Yeah. And there's the direct stream for the Redbook CD stuff I do.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And back into the other room. Here's the Moog.
Yay!
And the Rhodes and some other things. Yeah, most of the synths I took home, but this one stays here.
Nice.
Can't. Okay, there you go. And then for the monitoring system, we've got the Sony SSM9 EDs. I do a lot of surround work here, so there are 3 of them in the front, 2 of them in the back.
Now those Sony tower monitors, they were designed to your specifications, correct?
No, these were a product when we came out with the SACD. Dan Anagnos designed those, and they were designed with the idea that we wanted something that would go way up in frequency to show off the SACD, which you really don't need, but these are wonderful, and they do go up to about 100K.
That's awesome.
On the top, it's about 23K, and it makes a difference.
Oh, for sure.
If you
hear it.
Disconnect it. You may not hear it, but it does something to you, so it's having an effect.
Well, and this was the discussion when we had Paul Barton on about a month ago. It was the same thing. Like it's like you technically can't hear it, but physically you can sense it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, you know, everybody assumes we can only hear from 20 to 20, or, you know, depending on how old you are, 20 to 10. But I think just because we don't recognize that we're hearing a tone at 20K or 25K doesn't mean that it's not affecting us.
Yeah. But and again, like when I had this discussion with Paul Barton, like my wife's hearing impaired on both sides, and anything over 5K, since she was an infant, it's a long story, but she can't hear squat above 5K, both sides, and there's channel or level imbalances and all this.
Yeah.
So I've got these COS electrostatics, right? And so I put them on her head one day, right? And she's used to listening to crappy little earbuds and all this other stuff, or my Bose noise canceling crap and all this. I put these electrostatics on in her head. I cranked the volume. You know, I had the DSD, the TED's DAC feeds the COS like cider box and all this. I put the headphones on her head, and she went like, holy shit, like she can hear like, when I say she can hear everything, it's like she can tell the difference between the crappy little earbuds and a pair of dynamic driver headphones and then a pair of electrostatics. You know, she may not hear.
We perceive sound in ways that we don't know we do. I believe it.
Agreed.
And I believe all of the, you know, the predictions of the mathematicians who say, well, 44.1 is plenty. It reproduces everything we need to hear. I think one of the reasons that's wrong, well, first of all, there are probably other issues like phase, you know, linear phase and stuff. But I also think that we're not taking everything into account. We're not taking into account that, yes, you know, 60K will affect what we feel and hear. The accuracy of things in the time domain affect what we feel and what we hear. And I think that's one of the great things about the DSD. The sample rate so far up there is that it's not getting the timing wrong. You know, there's some other factors things that have come up that kind of surprised me. You know, back in the days when I was working for Sony and the first portable digital machine came out that people could afford, I got a call from a guy named Dr. Diamond. Do you know about him? Do you know who he is? Well, he was a medical doctor, and his profession was treating stress. And he would treat stress with music. He would play analog tape or possibly vinyl records, but mostly analog tape. And, you know, his tape would wear out, and he'd have to make, you know, a new tape from the original, whatever it might have been. And when he heard about digital, he thought, oh, this is fantastic. It's not going to change. It'll be the same all the time, which he was right about that. So we sent him, I think we sent him a PCM-F1. And, you know, a few months later, we get a call saying, there's something wrong with this. My treatments are not working anymore. In fact, if anything, they're working in reverse. They're causing stress rather than helping it. And he was onto something. I mean, he discovered that very early on in the digital days. And he was right. He was absolutely right. He you know, he studied it more. He came up with stress measurement tests. He took it to the AES show at the Waldorf Astoria one year and actually gave a paper on his findings. And he pretty much got laughed out of there. And then, you know, we didn't hear from him for a long time, but he continued to measure new formats that came out, higher sample rates. He just, you know, he just kept researching, trying to find out what's going on here. Why is this causing stress? This is something really important to find out. And I agree with him about all of that. Where was I going with this? Oh, so when the DSD thing first came out, early 2000s, I got a analog cassette from Mark Levinson, and he asked me to transfer that to DSD and then record it back onto another cassette. And he gave me Dr. Diamond's address to send it to. And turns out, whatever we did fixed the problem. He can treat, you know, stress again. It doesn't add to the stress. Okay, this is very subliminal. We really need to find out what's going on with all of this. But the reason I brought this up is because the bandwidth of the cassette is very small. You know, it's not like about the bandwidth out to 50K or 60K or whatever it might be. It has nothing to do with it. It's got to be something like, you know, the correctness of the timing or something like that, you know. But it's a real thing, and Dr. Diamond discovered it early 80s.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I'm living with it on a daily basis. So there you go. There's proof there. All right. So the next question is, and again, this is more of a personal one for me, but it's, you know, it's a story that would be nice to share with the group there. So could you talk a bit about your work with the late Jeff Emerick, Beatles recording engineer?
The only thing I did was assist him on a project, actually a couple projects, but the main one was a record of Art Garfunkel and Amy Grant called Animals Christmas. He had come to New York, and they were recording this on a Sony multitrack. I was really one of the few people who knew how to work with it. So he rented not Grace Cathedral, it was St. John's Cathedral, to record the organ and the piccolo trumpets in the back and everything. And he had me helping him string mics like 100 feet in the air and across the cathedral. And, you know, we worked till about 8 or 9, and then didn't spend too much time recording. Art Garfunkel was there for the whole thing. It was just us, me, Greg, Jeff, and Art. And I was more of an assistant to this project, just helping them work the digital multitrack. They didn't know how to use it. I did.
There you go. That's cool. Yeah,
I was in this huge cathedral all by myself from about midnight to 4 in the morning, and it was eerie. I took down all the microphones by myself, packed everything up. Yeah, well, that was one experience with Jeff, and another one once was just showing him around New York, taking him to Power Station, you know, introducing him to people. And what were we doing in that project? Oh yeah, it was one of the first vinyl cutting, not using a digital delay line, because they didn't want another generation to go to the cutter head. How did we do that? I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah,
but anyway, it was a Paul McCartney record, Pipes of Peace or something.
Oh yeah, I know. That's from
or Tug of War. Tug of War
was 82. Yeah, that's it.
One of them.
Yeah. I played the crap out of both of those albums. So that's
it had a red cover, red and blue cover. I remember
that's
that.
Tug of War. That's
Tug of War. That's what. Yeah. And we come up with a way to synchronize two machines to have two outputs at the same time that had the right delay for the preview cutter for the for the computer controlling the lathe. Because, oh, that's why. Because the only way we could have done it otherwise was go into an A to D, go through a digital delay, and the output of the digital delay would go to the master cutter. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted the original to go to the master cutter. So I came up with that.
And this was 1982.
It was very, no.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yes, you're right. It was, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
I sometimes get confused between the 80s and the 2000s.
it's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. That's why I said you're amongst gray hairs here, so nothing is not forgiven. It's all good. Okay. Yeah. I've basically got the end of my questions done, guys, because again, we've vetted some of this stuff. Keith, I'm gonna give the screen over to you. I think just unmute your mic and then you'll go on screen, and then go over the list of questions that you sent to Gus the other day, because there are some really good ones there.
Okay,
Some
so
of them, go ahead.
should I proceed?
Yeah.
Well, you may have touched on these things, but it would be good for me if you could focus on them directly.
Sure.
I have quite a few. Well, quite a few. I don't know what that means to everyone else, but digital download files I've bought,
Yep.
And among them, I would say a very small percentage, maybe 10%, maybe less, are DSD. And most of them I bought from native DSD.
Yeah.
Because not all the music I listen to is classical, and the DSD recordings pretty much consistently sound better than the other recordings, than the PCM recordings. And the PCM recordings, the quality varies a lot, but the 10 or so DSD recordings I have, they all sound really good. They all sound pretty good. And is that part of the care given in production, or is it part of the SACD, or not SACD, DSD coding?
Yeah.
Or is it my imagination?
I think the difference between the digital and the DSD is a much more simple system. Like we were talking about before, the sample rate's very, very high, and the timing is very correct. So it's very easy to do a DSD recording and have it be good. I've noticed this, when working with multiple instruments or multi-tracks. If you're recording a number of microphones and you're recording digitally, you have to work, sometimes do EQ and stuff to make one stand out from another. But when you're working at that high sample rate of DSD, you don't have to do anything. You just put the mics up and you hear the differences between them. And, it's just a more natural way. Honestly, it's a lot like the way it was when we were working with multi-track tape, because that did the same thing. You didn't have to do all this futzing with EQ to make things just, stand out from one another and distinguish from one another. So I think the main thing is that recording to a DSD system is just a very simple way in a computer to record. And the model is very different. There's no such thing as a word. It's just a 1-bit stream.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
one
have
stream
an idea
going
how
by
it
a window.
works.
And it's ones and zeros, and the more ones, the voltage is going up, the more zeros it's going down, and going very, very fast by the window. And if you think about what kind of model that is, it's almost like tape going by a tape head. Magnetic particles, more positive ones, the voltage goes up. The more negative ones, the voltage goes down. It's a very, very simple system.
Who are some of the users of your recording systems?
You mean the Sonoma, or?
Yeah. Do you sell this system to other studios?
I did a long time ago, but I kind of stopped doing that. Gosh, Well, the last one I sold to was to Daft Punk, and they made random access memories with it. So that's the last one I sold. But
so you're basically now just you're doing studio type work, recording.
I'm doing studio type work. I still support people who have it, you know, help out on projects with people. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of them out there. There's probably about 100 of them in Europe. And I don't really have anything to do with those. But Telarc used to use them all the time. They still do sometimes, but I think they've kind of gone to Pyramix. I was mentioning String Cheese has one. They're local, so there's another one there. I'm caught off guard a little bit with this. I'm having trouble remembering. Tom Jung had one with DMP. He would do all his recordings to it, DMP Records.
Why did you stop selling them?
Because, you know, Sony turned this over to me, and I really never had the funds to continue developing it. So it's kind of, there's some obsolescence to it now. You know, I think if I were going to try to build them now, I'd have to spend a lot of money on engineering to bring it to date regarding the components that are in it.
Are your systems used for live recordings, or are they basic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was mentioning earlier that, well, we didn't use the Sonoma for that. That was the old Sony system, but we did the Telluride show in 2000. I've been out on a lot of live dates with the equipment. Rocky Grass here, I've done, you know, a show there. Not a lot though, you know.
Yeah, well.
I've been out on projects with Telarc where we did live shows at jazz clubs, and I hope to actually start doing that more with Octave Records, where we do some live shows to the Sonoma.
Now, when I buy a DSD, well, whether it's an SACD or a download, how can I tell? And I expect that I can't, but how can I tell if it's been native DSD throughout its production, throughout the process?
Well, you know, there's some things you can do, like with a spectrum analyzer. If you look at the audio and you see a sharp cutoff somewhere, you know that was PCM, because there was like an anti-aliasing filter at, you know, at 20K or at 40K if it was, you know, 96K. So that's one clue that that'll definitely tell you whether it went through digital.
But when I set out to buy one, though, I can't make that determination.
You have to trust that what they say is true. I know that, you know, if you go to Analog Productions, for example, all of that stuff that they did from, you know, the Blue Note stuff, all of these Analog Productions recordings, they're all tape, and they're all, none of those have gone through digital. Very few, maybe a couple of them, but they usually tell you that, you know, on the record.
See, I have a recording of Vaughan Williams' Second Symphony I've bought from two different sources. One of them is a digital download from, I think it's from HD Tracks, and the actual album art that comes with it says SACD on it, yet it's a PCM file. And then I have the actual SACD of the same performance that I bought on Amazon. I mean, what's going on there? How am I ending up with a PCM file of something that was originally an SACD? Well,
you know, HD Tracks and some other companies like that, they would use the DSD to make their PCM files, because they weren't even selling, you know, they weren't selling DSD initially. They might be now. I don't know, but you know, they'd use SACD audio to make their high-res files. They downsample to like 192K, downsample to 88 or whatever.
I didn't know these places actually made their own files. I thought they just distributed them. got
Well, no, I think that that they would do that. They would create them from the or like when I've been doing a lot of prep work for the major labels from things that had been SACDs, and a lot of them, most of them, had been done from tape. They would have me make them a set, and the set would be DSD files, 176K or possibly 192K, 88K. So I would make that whole thing for them. And they would, those DSD files that they sold from those tapes, they're real DSD files. But you have to hope that, when you get on the website, they're telling you how that was made. Not everything was real.
Well, like the native DSD website, they claim everything.
They probably are. I'm
Yeah.
sure they are native DSD. I think everything they do is DSD.
Now, when you edit DSD files, does it have to be converted to PCM so you can edit it?
No. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. On the Sonoma, if you do an edit, the edit's just a couple milliseconds long. And in that time, it's converted to what's known as DSD wide. So it's basically breaking it out to multi-bit at the DSD sample rate. You're not going down,
Okay.
to a lower sample rate like DXD or anything like that. It's done at the same DSD sample rate, and in the Sonoma, only that section it changes. Everything else is the same data that was there originally. Only that section changes. However, I have a DSD mixer in the Sonoma too. And when you're going through the DSD mixer, it's taking everything and making it DSD wide, but it's keeping the sample rate at 2.8 megahertz. And in essence, that's multi-bit, so it's like PCM, but it's up at that sample rate. And I know that I go through the Sonoma mixer, and it still totally feels analog to me.
Well, that's very interesting because I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't even know if what makes this feel analog is the fact that it's 1-bit sigma delta, or is it the fact that it's such a high sample rate? I might even consider that it's the sample rate that makes it feel analog.
Yeah.
It's an order of magnitude higher than all the PCM we're listening to.
Well, that's one of the main misconceptions of DSD that I encounter on the various audio forums is that it has to go through PCM to be edited.
Well, that was the way the Pyramix used to be, but I don't even think they're that way anymore.
Okay.
In this day and age, we could be doing everything at 16 FS, which is like double DXD. That may get us pretty far. I mean, that may get us real close enough to DSD and we stay in the PCM domain. I don't know. All I know, I believe that the high sample rate of the DSD is fixing things in the time domain, that even if you don't listen at those high bandwidths, it makes a difference in how it feels.
Well, I try to buy DSD when I can, but
Yeah,
the selection, at least with classical music, is somewhat limited.
I know.
But along these lines, though, I don't
the
listen to just classical. I listen to like Jimi Hendrix, and some of the Jimi Hendrix experiences albums are being reissued in SACD versions. And I think you've answered my. I'm sorry.
Are you experienced? Did that here?
I'm going to interrupt something right now. I apologize, Keith. I've been waiting 2 years for Are You Experienced to come out on SACD, and I can't find it anywhere.
It's coming out. It had been delayed and delayed and delayed for approvals and stuff, but the master just went out like about a week ago.
Yay!
I think Acoustic Sounds, you can pre-order it. But I want Electric Ladyland is what I want, because I consider that the best rock album of all time. But anyhow, that aside, I think you've answered my
big effort going on to transfer the analog tapes of Hendrix to DSD. So that's going on.
I listened to Electric Ladyland just last night, and I don't know how intimately familiar you are with it, but there's this long piece on it called 1983.
Uh-huh.
And it has some of the most amazing stereo ambient effects I've ever heard.
Oh, I know. Even in RU Experience, it's like all around. It's amazing.
Yeah. But anyhow, I think you've answered my next question, was basically, if something is out on CD that was made from an analog tape, like Hendrix, for example, is there any point in my buying the SACD version when it comes out?
If they made it from the analog tape, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's analog tape to DSD gets so much more than analog tape to CD.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's much closer to the analog tape.
Well, that's good. Well, thus concludes my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm just looking for something here. I probably won't find it.
This is going to be a world exclusive.
When I said I listen to classical music and Jimi Hendrix, I shouldn't have put it that way. To me, Jimi Hendrix is classical music.
Absolutely, I agree.
Electric Ladyland was published before Shostakovich's 15th Symphony.
Yeah. Here it is. Hold on. Let me find the edit list. 2020, March. Yeah, I did this twice, actually. So here is the master for Are You Experienced? And on the SACD layer, the first side is stereo, first part is stereo, and the second part is mono, so it repeats. And
so you were involved with this?
yeah, I made the SACD master.
Wow.
Wow.
And
are there any plans to make Electric Ladyland?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I usually find out when. I guess it really doesn't matter which one I play. You guys are getting the mono version.
That's cool,
Okay.
man.
We've heard it before.
Well, okay, so Keith, I have the 5.1 mix of Electric Ladyland that Eddie Kramer did 2 years ago.
Well, that's got to be good.
Oh, it'll blow your mind, man, and it'll shake the shit out of your surrounds.
I have to say I disagree with that. I didn't care for the Eddie Kramer remasters. In fact, when I heard him, I wondered if he was losing his hearing.
This is the 5.1 though, man, and he did it right. Like when I read the pamphlet inside the box set, he literally said that Hendrix in 1970 or 68, I guess it was, wanted to do it in surround, but the technology wasn't there. Like they could do it in the studio because they have so many tracks to play with, but they can't take that studio thing and give it out to the public at the time. So I guess Kramer went with that, and the way he did the mix is incredible. And yeah, some of the tracks will shake the shit out of your rear channels if you don't have it. You know, if you've got little tiny bookshelves in your back wall, forget about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Kurt, you're up next, man. Kurt's there. I know he's there.
Mute.
Oh, I gotta.
I've got a.
Hang on, I gotta unmute him. Oh.
There it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
This is like a congressional hearings.
We don't need any of that. So you were talking about,
Yeah, I forgot mine.
I heard you talking about the Dead when I came in. I just caught a little bit of it, but do you have any Bill Walton stories?
No, I don't know the Dead. I never.
Oh, I thought you had done some
Somebody
work
else
for
was
him.
talking about it.
Oh, okay.
That was me. I just said that the Dead. That's Pete. I just said that the Dead had a good. They were recording their shows, live shows, with pretty good gear.
Okay, sorry. I
That's all
just
right.
caught the beginning of it. I didn't hear the tail end of it. I wasn't sure what it was. So I was hoping for a good Bill Walton story.
I
So
don't know much.
I've got a,
So Kurt did have
Kurt,
a question.
if you're done. Okay.
Yeah.
so as far as what you listen to, as far as the speakers that you use, you mentioned the Sonys, and then you had the ATCs.
Yeah.
Anything you prefer?
Well, the Sonys I couldn't live without because I don't think I'd be able to master without them. They're just so neutral. I like neutral speakers, and these are very, very neutral.
More
And
so than the ATCs?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. But the ATCs are very, very low distortion in the mid-range, and they can be very useful for finding stuff that you might not find on other speakers. Sometimes I can hear stuff on the ATCs that I miss on the Sonys in the mid-range area, like a problem or something, you know.
One of the best recordings that I've got, as far as one of the best live recordings I've got, is a DSD recording that was, I'm sure it was done off of tape. It was the I think it was done in Stockholm. Hang on. In fact, I just played it tonight. Live at the Pawn Shop.
Oh, yeah, I don't know the history of that. Was that first impression? First impression music?
I sorry, can't tell you.
Yeah, I think it was.
But it's just, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just so lifelike, and you hear everything from them, from the dishes being rattled around to
Yeah.
everybody coughing in the background. It's plus the instruments are just phenomenal.
Yep. I think that was one of Winston Ma's recordings.
So I don't have anything else, Joe.
That's okay.
I've got one.
Go ahead, Pete. This is now the general Q&A.
Okay.
Okay. Well, for the part, first of all, I was going to ask you what is the model number of those Sonys that you like?
They are the SS-M9ED. S is in Sam, 2 S's.
SS M9EE?
ED.
M9EE. Okay.
Yeah, I think they only made 50 pairs. Every
Oh,
once in a while,
wow.
some of them come up on eBay.
Okay.
And I have
But okay. But my main question is, and you've already sort of touched upon it a good amount, was I'm always curious about what is the mastering portion of a recording? Like, what does a mastering engineer do? Why is it, I hear about Bernie Grunman, and he's like puts the magic in it or something. I just never fully understood what the mastering guy does. It's so magic.
Well, I'm not going to say this is the case for me, but generally with the mastering engineer, he's someone who's in touch with, what the standard sound is out there, and what, how can I put this? If you're working in the studio, you're working on the recording, and you're not really paying attention to the record from song to song, or paying attention to it compared to what other things sound like out there. The mastering engineer has heard lots of, hits, lots of stuff that's out there. A lot of stuff has come through him. Like somebody like Bob Ludwig, stuff is coming through him, and he is a guy creating what people are hearing, and creating, the sound scape that is out there.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a finalization, process for making this fit with everything else that's out there.
Okay.
And of course, in pop music, there's a loudness where everybody wants their record to have more punch and more loudness than everybody else's. So there's always a struggle to to make things louder. And yeah, and it's a totally different thing when you're just trying to take a really good recording and get it to an SACD or something. I always want to get it without doing stuff if I don't have to do it. And I honestly, to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't know how to make things loud and standard. Like,
And to Gus's point there, I've got all the Beatles CDs from 33 years ago, and those were all the George Martin reissues, whether it was the first 4 mono and then everything else in stereo. And those damn CDs that he did back then, not only do they hold up today, but when you put it through like Ted's DAC or something and crank the volume, they never sounded like that 33 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But now that Giles Martin is kind of like the keeper of the flame, the stuff he did with like Sgt. Pepper and the White Album, Abbey Road, and now Let It Be, supposed to be later this year, he did it right. But the 2000 Beatles remasters, which he wasn't involved in, were atrocious.
I have a question. Is there a point to converting PCM to DSD? The reason I ask this is I think it's Blue Coast Records. In their library, they have a bunch of San Francisco orchestra recordings that are DSD downloads, but it says they were originally recorded in PCM.
Well, there is a point to upsampling to DSD and playing things back. It can be an improvement. I mean, that's kind of like, that's the basis of how Ted's DAC works. It's how the DCS upsampling systems work. There can be a benefit to upsampling PCM and playing it on a good DSD converter. So this is kind of like what Cookie is doing is kind of like that. You know, and all those San Francisco recordings, they actually came through here. And there are only 2 of them that were pure DSD, and that was number 1 and number 6 of the Mahler. Those 2 were pure DSD, and everything else was either 9624 or 192.
Why didn't they record them all in DSD?
That's a good question. It's just what they're used to. It's the way they're used to working. But, you know, a 192K to DSD, there is a bit of a benefit. It's not the same as if it were originally DSD, but
Yeah.
there's some benefit to that. And some people have very good DSD playback systems. And just for the reason of the quality of the playback system, the DSD upsample is going to be very nice. Yeah, I mean, I've helped them with their SACDs since 2001.
Okay.
All right, guys, who's next?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank Gus for answering so many great questions. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to end the call, but I want to make sure I get in my thank you before.
Well, this was a real pleasure
over.
tonight, Gus. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Oh.
you.
Don't leave us, guys. I got one more thing we got to do.
Okay.
Hey, Gus,
Yeah.
this actually goes to a question that Keith posed on a couple of Friday night beer sessions. Plug the shit out of
Where's the beer? Where's the beer?
It's here. I got another one. I got another one. So Keith,
We're gonna have to send you some beer from down here.
or bring it to the studio next year, even better.
Perfect.
So Keith McDonald, a few Friday night sessions ago, and this is a legitimate question. He was asking about being able to simultaneously compare DSD to the various PCM and all this.
Mhm.
Well, with Out of Thin Air, you get to do that now, because with the 2 CDs that you physically pressed into every single
Well, yes, but
Yeah.
well, yeah. Actually, that's a good example of comparing. But the master was DSD,
Correct.
and the PCM is a down conversion from the DSD.
Of course.
Yeah.
So spend the $30 and buy it, guys, because it's not going in his pocket. Although he did physically
I've
press
already-
every disc in the. Yeah.
I did.
I've
Yeah.
already got it on order, guys. So
Oh,
Nice.
thank you. Yeah, that took a lot longer than I expected, having to stuff those discs and wrap them. And it was hard.
oh, you really
Hardest part-
did that literally?
This is a joke, guys. No, this
Literally,
isn't a joke.
I did that. Yes, but the second group,
Holy shit!
the ADC in Austria, I don't have to do the. We ordered 1,000, and we just ordered another 1,000, and the next one I don't have to do that.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
What else, guys? I mean, the thing is, again, I apologize for the low member count tonight, Gus. But you
Don't
know what?
worry.
Through them, we got
They're gonna be able to-
SACDs. We got to tour your studio.
Yeah.
And some awesome stories, man. And that's what this is all about. But the only thing I regret is, this. Cheers, anyways. Cheers, anyways. Thank you.
Well,
And the discussion
Joe,
we get into-
sorry.
Gus, did
Go
you
ahead.
also the SACD or the DSD conversion for Hendrix's Axis Bold as Love?
It was done. I think that was done by Bernie Grundman.
Yes, and I have it. I
Yeah.
do have it, and he did both the stereo and the mono mixes. On
But I made the SACD master here. But Bernie Grundman actually did the transfers.
Okay.
That, a lot of stuff that has come through here has been either Bernie Grundman or Kevin Gray out on the West Coast for acoustic sounds. They were the main guys.
Well, I think was it Steve Hoffman that did the Nat King Cole transfers?
Yeah, I went out there and worked with them on that.
They're brilliant, man.
Aren't they beautiful?
Brilliant.
Yeah. Straight from the 3-track to the Sonoma.
And see, the thing is, I bought the digital download.
And I took those ATC speakers with me to help him. We
Right on.
bought those ATC speakers.
So, okay, I got a quick question. So I bought the DSD files off of Acoustic Sounds, not realizing that had I bought the SACD version, I would have got all 3 channels. Because when you get the download DSD, it's just to the left and the right.
Yeah.
And so again, I didn't know. I was, a little.
The 3-channel versions are just stunning.
Cool. Next on my list then. All right, guys. Do we have anything else for Gus?
Just to thank you.
No,
Thank you, man. This was fun.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks.
So
Thank you.
thanks a lot, Gus. Again, we'll talk soon.
Really?
With the DSD adapters and all that crap.
Sure.
That's a conversation for another day. I know you've been busy pressing CDs and you don't get time to play with the toys again. But it's all good.
True.
All right.
I
All
really,
right.
I really enjoyed this call, Gus.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll
Good
talk
night.
soon, Gus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.
We'll get.
Bye, Gus.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, I'm gonna find it.